Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we're about to play Mage Knight. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. As I go over everything, feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. Anytime you need to check the rules, use the main rulebook for the best accuracy and clarification, not the game walkthrough. For your convenience, I've included timestamps to the different sections of the tutorial in the video description. I'll be covering everything you need to know to play the first mission called the First Reconnaissance. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. In this fantasy realm of the Atlantean Empire, the Orc-Con race continue to raid the borderlands and fortresses while the Draconum creatures begin to hatch from tombs below. Both seek to destroy and conquer the Empire. The mysterious Mage Knights head to the capital, sent from the Council of the Void. With swords and sorcery at their side, the Knights seek fame, power, knowledge, and treasure while carrying out the Council's mission. Mage Knight is a game where players take the role as the titular Mage Knights to go on quests based on the scenarios set out in the rulebook. It can be played solo, competitively, or cooperatively, with scenarios for each. There are a lot of rules and symbols in the game to keep in mind, but I'll walk you through each step to get you playing the first recommended scenario. In this mission, your only objective is to explore the land and reveal the city. While each player is technically on their own and scores separately at the end of the game, player versus player combat is not recommended in your first game. That can be added later for even more direct competition. First, look for the character miniatures and their associated tokens and cards. If you have the Ultimate Edition or some expansions, you may have more than the starting 4 characters to choose from. Each person takes everything that goes with the character. Each hero has a 16-card deck of cards with an identity card. Their cards will show their specific symbol in the upper right corner. The base game comes with one unique hero card while the rest of them are identical. Take the shield tokens, turn order token, and their set of 11 skill tokens. Take the skill description card as well that goes with your hero. Lastly, take all the level tokens that show your shield on the back. Each player can now set up their player area in front of them. Shuffle face down the skill tokens and keep them in the stack to the left. Shuffle your cards, which is known as your deed deck, and place it on the left next to the skill tokens. Above the deck, place your hero card with the stack of level tokens on top. Each has level numbers at the bottom, such as 1 to 2, 3 to 4, etc. Place these in order in the stack with the level 1 to 2 token on top. One of these has a blank side and will be your first command token. Place it in front of you. Any units you control will be in the middle of your play area face up during the game, but you can only have one unit per command token available. So at the beginning of the game, you'll only be able to control one unit at a time, since you only have one command token. As your hero levels up, every 2 levels you'll gain a new command token. Above where your units sit will be the general play area for playing your cards on your turn. As you gain skill tokens, the active ones sit face up to the right of this play area. Keep the skill description card on the right. As you play cards, you'll need to keep a discard pile going, which should be on the right as well. Lastly, keep your pile of shield tokens nearby on the right. On the table out of the way, you should set up the general game components. Leave room for the map to be built and explored near the players. The large brown board is called the Fame and Reputation board. Each player should place one of their shield tokens at the 0 space of the Fame track, which flows from top to bottom. On the right side is the Reputation track, which players should also put one of their shield tokens starting at 0 at neutral reputation. Doing good things will move your reputation down to the right on this track, and doing bad things will move it the other way. Place the smaller Day-Night board underneath with the day side up, and add the mana dice to it. You'll use 2 more than there are number of players. So in a 2-player game, roll 4 dice and place them on the board. The rolled dice will be the starting available mana for the first round. The gold and black mana is only usable during day or night, respectively. The other 4 colors are the standard 4 types of mana. When rolling the dice, at least half of them should be basic colors. If not, re-roll the black and gold dice until it is. To the left of this board, you'll have the round order tokens placed to show turn order. For the first round of the game, randomize the order with the first player's token at the top. Shuffle the silver regular units deck and place it to the left of the round markers. Reveal 2 more cards than number of players face up below the day-night board. At least 1 unit revealed should have the village icon shown on the left side of the card. If not, shuffle them again and deal new cards until at least 1 is out. The gold elite unit cards won't be used in your starting game. Separate the day and night tactics cards and place the night cards next to the day-night board. They do not need to be shuffled. The day tactics cards can sit in the center of the table for now. The first mission starts in the day. The various locations or sites you may discover on the maps each have detailed descriptions found on special cards. Find all these site description cards and place them to the right of the fame and reputation board for easy reference. There are also 4 city description cards, but you won't need them for the first game. Sort the various tokens into face-down piles. Shuffle them into a random order, then set the stacks above the fame and reputation board. Create a supply pile of mana crystals. Now you've got to sort out the other types of cards. They all share the same deed card back, but are all numbered on the front. The spell cards all have a violet frame and are separated into a top and bottom half. Collect all the spell cards into a deck and shuffle them. Place this deck to the right of the fame and reputation board. Reveal 3 spell cards along the right side of the board. Alternatively, you can wait until someone is able to take a spell for the first time in the game, and reveal 3 at that point. This is one way to decrease the learning complexity at the beginning. Wound cards show a large red blood drop on the backs. Keep these together in a face-up deck to the right of the spell deck. Artifact cards have a gold frame around a text box. In it, they'll have an upper part and lower section of text. The bottom section always describes its one-time use strongest effect, which will destroy it. Shuffle all the artifact cards together and place its deck to the right of the wound deck. The rest of the deed cards will be the advanced action cards. They look like the cards in Heroes starting decks, except they also have a gold frame around its text and do not show any hero's icon in its upper right corner. In the first game, there are certain numbered cards to be removed from the deck. Which ones will depend on if you're playing the original game's release or the Ultimate Edition. Check the game walkthrough to confirm which cards not to use in the first game. In other scenarios, all the advanced action cards will be used. Shuffle the deck and place it to the left of the fame and reputation board. Reveal 3 from this deck and place them along the left side of the board. Same as the spell cards, you may choose not to reveal these until a player is first able to take an advanced action card. It's a first game recommendation to save explanation time and decrease the perceived complexity. The map tiles have a brown or green back. The green-backed tiles are less developed countryside. In this mission, put them in order of their number with 1 at the top of the face-down pile. If playing with 2 players, include tiles 1 to 8. With 3 players, include tiles 1 to 9. The starting tile is double-sided. For this scenario, have side A up. For your first game, lay out the starting tile and the first 2 green tiles in this arrangement. As players explore new map tiles, they must be added in a V. The coastline will extend outward indefinitely on both sides. All the map tiles need to be oriented the same way, with the numbers matching the orientation of the starting tile's letter A position. The brown-backed tiles are core tiles, representing the most developed part of the land, having big cities and advanced challenges on them. 4 of these contain a city in the center. For this scenario, separate the city and non-city brown tiles and shuffle them separately. Draw 1 city tile and 2 non-city tiles. Shuffle these 3 together face down and place the stack of green countryside tiles on top. This map tile stack will be what you draw from during the game when exploring. Keep it to the right of the fame and reputation board. After setting up the starting map, you'll see there are 2 Orc Con symbols. Draw an Orc Con token from the stack for each space and place them on the map face up there. These are the enemies at the start of the game. A game of Mage Knight takes place in rounds of days and nights. The first reconnaissance mission lasts 3 rounds, day, night, day. Players will need to have found the city by this time to succeed. Within each round, players take turns doing a standard turn or resting. A standard turn involves the option to move, then doing 1 action. You don't have to move, but if you choose to move, you must do that before any action taken. At the beginning of a round, players shuffle their entire deck of deed cards and draws to their hand limit. Players begin at level 1, meaning the topmost level token is displayed on their hero card. Their armor is shown by the left number, and their hand limit is shown by the right number. So at the start of the game, everyone draws 5 cards to their hand. After drawing their hand of cards, players will get to pick a tactic card for the current day or night. The tactics cards players choose will affect their turn position, as well as a specified bonus for them during the round. For the first round of the game, let players choose their tactic card in the randomized starting turn order. The lowest chosen tactic card number will go first. Rearrange the round order tokens to reflect players' chosen card and the new order established. Some of the tactics cards are resolved immediately after taking it, then flipped face down. Some have a permanent effect and can stay face up in front of you. Others have a usable one-time ability, which you can use when you want, then flip it face down. During a player's turn, they may use one of the mana dice from the day-night board to strengthen one of their actions. Typically, players may only use one mana die from the source each turn by default. I'll go into detail on that later. After finishing the turn, roll the used mana die and return it to the pool. At that point, to speed things up, the next player may already start their turn. The player who's finishing their turn should discard all their played cards into their discard pile. Next, use the benefits of your space. If you're on a magical glade, you may throw away a wound from your hand or discard pile. If you're on a crystal mine, you can gain a crystal of the mine's color. If the player won rewards from combat in the turn, they'll take them now. If they've gained fame to move to the next row of the fame track, they should resolve leveling up. Then draw cards from their deck back to their hand limit. You may choose to discard any non-wound cards before drawing. If you did not play or discard any cards this turn, then you must discard one now. Additionally, if your hero is on or adjacent to a keep you own, your hand limit is increased by the number of keeps you own anywhere on the map. If you already have more cards than your hand limit, keep them and do not draw anymore. Players continue taking turns until the round ends. Once a player starts their turn and has no cards left in their deed deck, they may choose to announce the end of the round. Once someone does, their turn immediately ends and each other player takes one last turn. Of course, if someone doesn't have cards in their deck or their hand, they must announce the end of the round. When the round is over, flip the day-night board to the other side. Reroll all the mana dice and place them on the board. Remember to reroll black and gold dice if less than half of the dice are the basic mana types. Next, remove any remaining unit cards for the unit offer and put them on the bottom of its deck. Reveal new unit cards from the deck equal to 2 more than the number of players. Resolve monastery cards as well, but I'll explain how those work later. Remove the lowest position card of the advanced action card offer and shift the rest down. The removed card is placed on the bottom of its deck. Add a new advanced action card to the top position. Then do the same process with the spell cards. All players shuffle all their deed cards together again into a deck. This includes cards still in their hand and the discard pile. Then any spent units are readied again by moving the command tokens above them. Any spent skill tokens are flipped face up again. Some artifacts can be assigned to players' units. In preparing a new round, any assigned artifact cards that are face down are flipped up. Also, you may choose to shuffle the artifacts back in your deed deck if you want. The current round's tactic cards are returned to their deck. Then players draw back up to their hand limit from their deck. If the deck empties, they'll just draw as much as they can. Next, players choose a new tactic card for the next round from the day or night deck as applicable. Choose in order of least amount of fame on the fame track to most. If a tie, go by who was later on the turn order in the previous round. After everyone's chosen their new tactic card, rearrange the turn order again and proceed with taking turns. Some tactics cards, hero skills, and map spaces allow players to do some action or gain some benefit out of turn. In those cases, they may choose to gain them right before they take their turn, right after their turn, or any time during another player's turn. These are not allowed during your end of turn sequence, before tactics card selection is finished, or after your last turn in a round. For example, ending your turn on a village space gives you an option to plunder the village once before your next turn. If you do, lose 1 reputation and draw 2 cards from your deed deck, which strengthens your next turn. Plundering it does not prevent you from interacting with the village in any way. The magical glade spaces have different effects depending on starting your turn there or ending your turn there. If you end your turn at the magical glade, you may destroy one wound card from your hand or discard pile, returning it to its deck. By starting your turn on the space, you get a gold mana token. Set it in front of you to be able to be used this turn. At night, gain one black mana token instead. After the turn is over, the gold or black mana is lost if not used. Your very first turn will be a standard turn. On your first turn, place your hero miniature on the portal space of the starting tile. Then you can begin moving. The first thing you should do in a standard turn is do all your movement you want. Depending on where you end up will determine your action possibilities. You could move to a new space and fight or interact there. You may stay where you are and fight or interact there, or you could simply move and do nothing else, or just do nothing. You're not allowed to fight or interact and then move, nor move, fight, or interact, and move again. When players take their turns, they're allowed to play out or try options and revert back to try something else instead. Takebacks are allowed in the game because there are many choices and ways to accomplish things. Forcing people to plan exactly what they will do slows the game down. The only time takebacks should not be allowed is when you reveal new information like drawing a card, exploring the map, rolling a die, or revealing a hidden token. Taking a rest turn is useful when you have wound cards in your hand and you have no other way of healing them out. During a rest turn, you may not move or take normal actions. You are allowed to play special and healing cards or use effects from crystal mines or magical glades, should you be on them. Then you must discard one non-wound card and any amount of wounds from your hand. Discarding these wounds puts them in your discard pile, but healing them returns them to the wound deck. Wound cards put in the discard pile will be shuffled into your deck in the next round. If a player has nothing but wound cards in their hand, they are exhausted and must do a slow recovery. They must reveal their hand while resting and may discard only one wound. They may still use healing and special abilities of their units and skills, but will not move or take an action. They may still gain benefits from spaces they're on at the end of the turn. Although each player starts with 16 deed cards, they may gain more cards to their deck as the game goes on. Artifacts, spells, and advanced actions may all be gained in different ways. At inhabited locations on the map, players may recruit units like villagers, soldiers, golems, or mages. Spending influence is the main way to recruit. Having units will help the heroes in combat or provide special benefits. By doing good deeds like fighting enemies, heroes gain fame points. Their shield token will increase along the fame track and slowly move downward. Each new row is a level up. Leveling up gives rewards but are not resolved immediately. It's done during the end of turn sequence I explained earlier. If leveling more than one level at a time, do them one at a time consecutively. There are two kinds of level up benefits which alternate every other level. Look for the symbols on the left of the row. The first level up lets you gain one advanced action card from the 3 in the display, as well as a new skill. Choose which new action card you want from the 3. Place the new action card on top of your deed deck and replenish the advanced action card offer. Shift the remaining 2 down and reveal 1 to the top position. To gain a skill, draw the top 2 skill tokens from your stack. Review what each one does by checking the skill description card for your hero. Choose one to gain and place it face up to the right of your play area. The other one should go to the left of the Fame and Reputation board in a supply known as the Common Skill Offer. If you do this level up and there are other players' skill tokens in the Common Skill Offer, you may choose to take that instead of the 2 you drew from your own stack. Put both of your drawn skill tokens in the common offer and gain the other player's skill. You may never choose your own skill token from the common offer. Also, by taking one of these common skills, you must take the advanced action card in the lowest position instead of choosing the one you want. Having and using skills is a huge part of improving your hero's actions and abilities. They do not have to be drawn into your hand, so they may be used easily. Some skills require them to flip over when used and won't flip back until a new round starts. Some skills have an interactive icon, meaning their effects affect other players until the beginning of your next turn. Place those in the center of the table until the start of your next turn, when they'll be flipped over. Other skills without the arrow icons can each be used once per turn. The other type of level up bonus is a command upgrade. When advancing to a row with the command icon on the left, move the top level token from your stack to your unit area face down. This becomes a new command token you may use to control another unit. Additionally, the newly revealed top level token will increase your armor stat or hand limit. When starting a round, you'll roll all the mana dice based on your player count. If less than half of the dice are the 4 basic colors, re-roll the gold and black mana until at least half the dice are basic colors. In the day, the black mana cannot be used. Slide these over to the right side of the board. In the night, gold mana cannot be used, so slide them over instead. The mana color itself can't be used, but the die can still be manipulated with some effects to change it or re-roll them. Red mana is fire energy, full of flames, destruction, and rage. Blue mana is water energy, full of frost, magic, and crystals. Green mana is earth energy, full of nature, protection, and healing, and white mana is wind energy, full of spirit, speed, and mind. Gold mana is sun energy, used only during the day. It may be spent as any basic mana color. Black mana is darkness energy, used only during night. It has no power by itself, but instead amplifies the power of basic mana colors. Black mana is often used on spell cards at night and does not act as a wild like gold. You'll also notice there are no gold or black mana crystals, as these can never be kept in a hero's inventory. Whenever gaining mana from a die, players can simply treat the die as a mana token. This is known as pure mana. If not used by the end of your turn, it is lost and returned to the supply. When returning the die, re-roll it and place it back on the board. However, when a card or effect says to gain a crystal, the player gains a mana token on their inventory card, which will stay turn after turn until used. You may only hold 3 crystals of each color at a time in your inventory. If you're to gain a crystal when you already have 3 crystals of that color, you gain 1 mana of that color instead. Mana tokens can be generated as temporary mana during the turn. To use mana, place it on the card. Using the matching mana indicated on the card triggers its stronger effect instead of its basic effect. After resolving it, the card is discarded to your discard pile and the mana token is returned to the supply. Each deed card you can play from your hand has a similar layout. The card name in the middle, the hero's symbol in the top right, and the picture in the center. In the text box, the top portion is the basic effect. Below it reads the stronger effect, but only applied when mana is paid with it. The cost for the stronger effect is the colored gem in between the 2 texts. The color gem matches the whole card's tone color and is the same color referred to when a card or effect relates to an action card's color. In the upper left corner, you can see the type of card it is. The foot icon means this card can be used during movement. The head icon is for influence, which is used when interacting with locals in inhabited places. The cross swords icon means the card is used during combat. Special cards have this star symbol and can be played in any phase and have unique effects or support other actions. The hand icon are healing cards and destroy wound cards you've gained. You may play healing cards whenever not in combat. Playing the card is as simple as putting it face up on the table in front of you in your play area. State if using it for its basic effect or for the stronger effect. For the stronger effect, you must use 1 mana of the color shown. Each of your turns, you're allowed to remove and use 1 mana die from the day-night board. During the day, you may spend gold mana as any color. Often, the cards will give you points for moving, influence, attacking, or blocking. You should play cards consecutively to stack on one another, adding up all their points for one large action. Overlap the cards with the same effect so the card effects are visible. Place mana tokens on the cards being used for their stronger effect. You may end up with more points towards an action than you need. That's okay, they just won't be spent. Any card that is not a wound can contribute 1 point towards the basic actions of movement, influence, attacking, and blocking by being played sideways. Simply play a card sideways on the stack with the other cards to indicate what it's helping boost. Additionally, your entire action could be made up of sideways cards, 1 point attributed per card. The wound cards may not be used for this. You may gain the points you need in any combination of played cards with basic effects, strong effects, and mana, and sideways cards. On your turn, you may move your hero mini to adjacent map spaces by spending movement points. There are many different land types shown on the map. Each one has a different movement point value required to move into it. Check the day-night board on the left to see the movement point costs associated with it. The X's on the mountains and lakes mean you may not enter those map spaces at all. The costs of moving into a desert or forest space during night are different. Look at the small blue numbers to see the different costs. It's easier to travel in the desert at night, but harder to travel in the forest. Sometimes special effects let heroes travel through lakes, mountains, and rampaging enemies. In these unusual cases, they're forced to withdraw at the end of their turn. The hero must end their turn in a safe space, otherwise they're forced to withdraw to the previous space they came from until on a safe space. For each backtracked move, draw a wound card to your hand. You may move your hero as far as you want as long as you can pay the movement points to get there, paying each terrain hex moved into. You only pay the points for the space moving into, not from. Plains cost 2 movement points, hills 3, forest 3, wasteland 4, desert 5, and swamp 5. Moving on to a city space always costs 2 movement points. You may not end your movement in the same space as another hero miniature unless you're playing with player versus player combat. For your first game though, it's not recommended. You may spend movement to go through occupied spaces, just not stopping on them. By moving into unconquered fortified sites like a keep, mage tower, or city, your movement stops as it's considered an assault on that site. Adventure sites like ruins, monster dens, spawning grounds, dungeons, and tombs do not stop movement, even if an enemy token is present. All players' first turns will put their hero on the starting tile's portal space. If you don't move from the space, then pick up your hero at the end of the turn. You'll keep coming onto the map via the portal space until you move off it. When moving your hero to the outer edge of the map, you may spend movement points to explore a new tile. Your first game has a V shape extending from the coastline of the starting tile. You will use the A side of the starting tile. Tiles must be placed and extended outward from it. Revealing a new tile is called exploring and not a separate action. It's part of your movement action. To explore as part of your movement, spend 2 move points to reveal the top map tile from the map tile stack and place it in the correctly aligned adjacent spot for it. The orientation must line up with the rest of the tiles. There are 6 symbols shown in its corners, which must line up with their corresponding symbols on the existing map. Also, match the direction of numbers and graphics with the numbers and art of the existing map. A hero may be on a map space that could reveal 2 possible map tiles. Before revealing the map tile, the player must first announce which space it will be placed. After spending move points to reveal a new map tile and placing it, your hero may continue its movement onto the new tile. You may also play more movement cards to gain more movement points, added to any leftover points. You may also spend movement points to only explore map tiles and not actually leave your space. Even still, this must be done before taking your action. The new map tile must always match the orientation of the starting map tiles, with the numbers in the same direction. Additionally, when using the A side of the starting tile, like in the first reconnaissance scenario, the brown core tiles may not be discovered and placed along the coastline. As part of exploring and revealing a new map tile, look at any sites found on the new tile and find their site description cards. Read the When Revealed section and resolve those now. For example, whenever a monastery is revealed, draw 1 advanced action card from the top of the deck and add it to the unit offer. I'll cover each site and their differences later. During the first scenario, First Reconnaissance, exploring a map tile will earn the hero 1 fame point. If you should move to the next row of the fame track, remember to level up at the end of your turn. The starting map layout has 2 enemies already out. The enemies that are placed on Orc or Draconum symbols on the map are considered rampaging enemies. All rampaging enemies on the map will affect your movement. First, you may not enter a space occupied by an undefeated rampaging enemy. Secondly, when moving from an adjacent space to the enemy to another adjacent space to the same enemy, you provoke it. You immediately stop your movement and engage in combat with it. The mandatory combat becomes your 1 action this turn. You are allowed to move away from it, then back again without provoking it. It's only when you move next to the enemy from consecutive spaces. Aside from automatically provoking it, you may always announce a challenge to an adjacent rampaging enemy token to start combat. Engaging in combat is an action and always counts as the one allowed in your turn. You may not move after combat. If you defeat the enemy, remove the token and add it to the discard pile. Whether provoked or through your challenge, if you defeat it, you gain the fame shown on the enemy token. Defeating a rampaging orc gives 1 reputation, and defeating a rampaging draconum gives 2 reputation. I'll cover how combat works later. As an example of using action cards together towards an action, let's look at interacting with a village your hero is on. You can pull out the village's description card to follow along. The villages allow you to spend influence points on recruiting village units and/or healing your wounds in any combination. Play whatever cards you have that may give you influence, and decide if you want to or can spend mana on its strong effect. You may add sideways cards to get +1 for each to your running total. Then, because you're interacting with the locals, you must check what your reputation is on the track. If on a positive number, add that to your influence total. If a negative number, decrease your influence total by that amount. Should your shield be on the X space of the reputation track, the locals refuse to talk to you, and you may not interact with them at all. Any of your influence points gained can be spent towards healing. At a village, you may spend 3 influence to gain 1 point of healing. For each point of healing, you may remove 1 wound card from your hand and return it to the wound deck. You may also heal wounded units by spending healing points equal to their level. The level of a unit is the Roman numeral in the upper right corner of its card. Spending that amount of healing points will remove 1 wound card from it. For each wound card, you must spend the full level amount of healing points. You can divide up how you spend healing in any way you want. While in the village, you may also play effects that provide healing points directly to combine with the influence allocated to healing. It's important to note that when gaining healing points from a card effect like this, you may not play sideways cards to gain extra points. To recruit units from the village, look at the available units in the unit offer. While here, you may only recruit units that have the village icon on them. The influence cost of each recruit is shown in the upper left corner. The recruited unit must be placed under one of your command tokens. Do not immediately refresh the available units. The available pool is only refreshed at the start of a round. You may recruit a unit even if you don't have a free command token, but you must first choose one of your units to discard first. You may even discard spent units. The new units always come in ready and unwounded. A unit card shows the influence cost to recruit it in the upper left corner, as I said. Below it, you'll find icons for where it can be recruited from. The icons match up with various locations and their description cards. The upper right Roman numeral is the unit's level. This determines the amount of healing points required to remove 1 wound card from it, as well as the total value of your army at the end of the game. Each unit has its picture and the name of the card in the middle. The number at the center right of the card is the unit's armor, which will come into play during combat. Some units have resistance icons under their armor value, indicating they have physical, fire, or ice resistance when in combat. The abilities of the unit are described in the text box. Each dividing horizontal line can be read as OR. The icons next to the abilities refer to when the ability can be used. Abilities with this icon give mana or crystals and are considered special effects. During your turn, you may activate a ready and unwounded unit to use one of its stated abilities. Choose one of the abilities to gain and move its command token on the card. The unit is now considered spent. It cannot be activated again until it is readied. The unit stays spent for the rest of the round. Sometimes an ability will have a mana symbol next to it, meaning you must spend a mana of that color on it to trigger that effect. At the beginning of a new round, such as moving from night to day, all units are readied. Simply move the command token back above each unit card to make them ready again. Wounds will remain until they're healed or the unit itself is replaced. Sometimes certain effects give you the ability to ready a spent unit without waiting for the end of the round. You may not use those effects in combat to use a unit twice. So how exactly does combat work? Let's first examine the icons and numbers shown on an enemy token. Here's an orc enemy token. The top number is its armor, which is how much attack damage you must do to defeat it. The left number is its attack value to you. You'll need to block that much or end up taking the damage. The fist icon means the attack is physical damage. Some enemies, like the Draconum, use other kinds of attack types like ice or fire. If the enemy has any special abilities, it will be shown as an icon on the right of the token. All the abilities are described fully on the back of the rulebook. If the enemy has special defenses or resistances, those will be added icons next to the armor at the top. If using an attack type against an enemy with a resistance to it, the attack value is halved. Additionally, if an enemy has fire resistance, it ignores any non-attack effects of red cards and unit abilities powered by red mana. And if it has ice resistance, it ignores non-attack effects of blue cards or unit abilities powered by blue mana. The number at the bottom is the earned fame points by defeating the enemy. Combat is a possible action on your turn. There are several ways to start combat. You may assault an unconquered keep, mage tower, or city by moving onto its space. Note that moving to a city costs 2 movement points. By assaulting these sites, your hero immediately loses 1 reputation. If a hero fails to conquer a fortification during an assault, they must withdraw to the space they came from. This is not considered a forced withdrawal and does not give them a wound. By entering a keep owned by another player, it still counts as an assault and still loses you 1 reputation. Draw a random gray enemy token to fight as the garrison of the keep. Defeating it earns the hero half the fame rounded up. The adventure sites like ruins, spawning grounds, unconquered monster dens, dungeons, and tombs do not automatically start combat. Heroes on these spaces may announce they're entering the site as their action. That will initiate combat with any enemies there. When standing on a monastery, you may attempt to burn it. First, lose 3 reputation, then draw a violet enemy token to fight. If successful, place a shield token on it and gain an artifact at the end of your turn. The rampaging enemies can be challenged to combat by a hero if they're adjacent to it. You may challenge multiple at the same time if more than one are adjacent to your hero. You may also provoke rampaging enemies by moving from an adjacent space to another adjacent space to that enemy. Movement stops and you engage in combat. You may end up provoking 2 enemies at the same time, which means you must fight both. This includes when your assault movement provokes an adjacent rampaging enemy. However, entering an adventure site will not let you challenge additional enemies. If you're using the PvP rules, you may not fight another player at the same time as an enemy token. After initiating combat, go through the 4 phases in order. First is the ranged and siege attack phase. By successfully doing a siege or ranged attack, the hero gets a first chance to defeat the enemy before they attack, ending the combat early. Players may play cards or activate unit abilities that provide a ranged attack or a siege attack. Sideways cards may not be played to generate a ranged or siege attack. If an enemy is fortified or defending a fortified site, only a siege attack can be used in this phase. Plus, if the enemy token is fortified and it's defending a fortified site, it is double fortified and may not be targeted even with siege attacks in this phase. Check for the enemy's resistances. If using an attack type against an enemy with a resistance to it, the attack value is halved. If your attack value total is equal to or greater than its armor, the enemy is defeated and discarded to its type's discard stack. The hero scores fame points as shown on the bottom of the enemy token. If your attack value won't defeat it, you may try playing more cards to reach it, or choose to take back the attempted combat cards. If fighting multiple enemies, you may instead try to choose a different enemy to target. If choosing not to range or siege attack, or chose to take it back because you couldn't defeat it, then continue to the next combat phase. Now, any surviving enemies in the combat will get to attack you and your units. Its attack value is the number on the left of the token. Sometimes an enemy's attack will instead show enemy token icons. If so, draw them off the top of its deck to add to the enemy group. During the block phase and damage assigning phase, the summoned monster replaces the enemy. No effect can target the original enemy in these phases. The attack value of the enemy can be blocked by playing cards that give a block value, using units' abilities, or playing sideways cards for 1 block each. Blocking points cannot be saved. Most attacks are physical, and any kind of block is efficient against it. However, to efficiently block fire, you should block with ice or cold fire. To efficiently block ice, use fire or cold fire blocks. A cold fire attack's only efficient block is a cold fire block. Any other block used in these cases is considered inefficient. Add up the inefficient block points and divide by 2, rounded down. Add this to any efficient blocks to get your total block points. Additionally, if an enemy has the Swift ability, then its attack value is doubled when trying to block. If you block all the incoming attack, you do not get hurt. If your block total is less than the attack total, the full attack comes through. For this reason, if you can't fully block an attack, you shouldn't bother using the block effects. During the assign damage phase, you must assign the damage to your units and/or hero. Enemies who attacked and were not fully blocked will get to assign their full attack as damage. If you blocked all attacks, you can skip this phase. If the enemy has the Brutal ability, it deals double damage. All the damage must be assigned. Any of your unwounded units may be assigned damage, even if they're spent. When assigning damage, first give the unit a wound card to go on top of it. Then reduce the damage value by your unit's armor value. If any damage still remains, you must assign it to either another unit or your hero. The next unit to be assigned this damage then takes a wound card as well and reduces the damage total by its armor value. Sometimes your unit may have a resistance matching the type of attack coming to it. If that's the case, you may first reduce the incoming damage total by their armor before taking a wound card. Only if they can't reduce the entire damage will they have to take a wound card. Then reduce the damage value again by their armor value. Any units that were assigned damage and did not get a wound card may not be assigned damage again in the same combat. Of course, wounded units may not be assigned damage either. If you don't assign damage to your units or have to assign remaining damage to your hero, then your hero gets wounded. Take a wound card and put it in your hand. Then reduce the incoming damage total by your current armor as shown on your level token. Keep taking a wound card and reducing the damage value until all the damage points are assigned. If you should gain wound cards during combat to your hand that meet or exceed your hand limit, you are knocked out. Discard all non-wound cards from your hand. Once all the damage has been assigned, proceed to the attack phase. The attack phase is when your hero and units get to attack the enemy. There's no difference between range, siege, or regular attacks at this point. Any non-wound card can be turned sideways to increase your attack value by 1. Special cards and effects for attacking may be used. You may target multiple enemies in one attack, or declare multiple individual attacks. The enemy is not affected when there's not enough attack to defeat the enemy. Remember that attack types matching an enemy's resistances are inefficient and will be halved. After your attack phase, the combat ends regardless of what enemies are still alive. Gain the fame shown on the bottom of the defeated enemy tokens. When defeating rampaging enemies on the map, like orcs or draconums, you also gain reputation. 1 reputation for defeating an orc, and 2 reputation for defeating a draconum. Discard their tokens and treat their space from now on as an empty space. If you defeated all the enemies at an adventure site, place a shield token on it. Heroes will stay on the adventure site space, even when failing to conquer it. At the end of your turn, you gain the rewards shown at the bottom of the site token or description card. By defeating all the defenders of a fortified site, end your turn on the conquered space. If a keep or mage tower, place a shield token on it. If a mage tower, you'll also gain a spell at the end of your turn. Failing to defeat the enemies also ends combat. If losing to a rampaging enemy, it stays on the map. Any remaining enemies at a dungeon, tomb, or monastery are discarded. New ones will be drawn the next time a hero attempts it. Remaining enemies at a monster den, spawning grounds, or ruins will stay face up on its space. When assaulting a fortified site but fail, you must return to the space your hero moved in from. This is not considered a forced withdrawal and does not give you a wound. However, if you must continue backtracking to get to a safe space, then you do gain a wound for that. This would be an unusual case in your first game. Combat rewards are earned at the end of the turn before updating the fame tracker, taking level ups, and drawing new cards. You may choose the order of taking the rewards if multiple were earned. This icon is for crystals. You gain the shown mana crystals and place them in your inventory area of your hero card. Remember, you're limited to 3 crystals in your inventory of each color. If gaining a random crystal, roll a mana die. If you roll black, gain 1 fame instead. If you roll gold, you may choose the color crystal to take. This icon is to gain an artifact. Draw as many as icons shown plus 1. Choose which ones to keep and which one to remove. The unchosen artifact goes on the bottom of the artifact deck. Put the earned artifact cards on top of your deed deck in any order. This purple icon means to gain a spell card. This icon is to gain an advanced action card. Choose one from the offer of 3 below its deck to gain. Place it on top of your deed deck, then slide the other 2 down and refill the topmost space with a new card from the top of its deck. This icon means to gain a unit from the unit offer. You can take any available. You may choose to level up first if it would gain you a command token, so you may add the unit to your area without having to discard or lose one of your current units. There are a number of combat abilities in the game which are listed and summarized on the back of the rulebook. Many new combat abilities are found in expansions, but there are still 2 from the base game I've not explained yet. A unit wounded by an enemy with the poisonous ability will take 2 wound cards instead of 1. Each wound you take to your hand will add a wound to your discard pile. The Silverman icon is the paralyzing ability. When a unit is wounded from a paralyzing enemy, the unit is immediately destroyed and removed from the game. When a hero takes a wound from them, they should immediately discard all non-wound cards from their hand. When fighting multiple enemies, you have some more combat options. When doing your attack during the ranged and siege attack phase, and the attack phase, you have the option to do one big attack against all of them. Your total attack value should be equal to or greater than the total of all the chosen enemies' armor values. It's like treating multiple enemies as one. If any of them have resistances like physical, fire, or ice, all your attacks of this type will be halved. Similarly, if you target a group of enemies where one of them is fortified, then in the siege and ranged attack phase, only siege attacks will work against them all. You may also choose to separate your attacks, doing a series of attacks one at a time to targeted enemies, or a smaller group of enemies. This can be helpful to group enemies sharing the same resistances or fortified stats. During the block phase, you may try blocking any undefeated enemies. You may not group them to do one big block. Each must be blocked individually in any order. You must assign damage from unblocked enemies' attacks, and may do it in any order. A unit may not be assigned damage twice in one combat, nor can a wounded unit be assigned damage. I've already discussed what a village location does for you, so let's look at the rest of the special sites you'll reveal on the map. Each one works differently. When you see the image of a gray castle like this, it's known as a keep. When revealed on a new map tile, place a gray enemy token face down on it. During the day, it will be flipped face up when a hero is adjacent to it. If revealed during the night, the token stays face down unless someone attempts to assault it. Thematically, it's not revealed at night unless it's attacked due to low visibility, or maybe the guards fell asleep and can't tell who is defending it. You must move onto the keep space to attack it, known as an assault. Keeps are fortified, and by moving onto them, you stop your movement and begin combat. Since they are defending their fortification, you'll need to spend movement in order to attack. Doing an assault immediately decreases your reputation by 1. The locals do not approve of seeing fortifications attacked. By conquering the keep token, you become the owner of the keep. Place one of your shield tokens on it. If you fail the combat, move your hero back to the space it moved from. Any enemies in a keep are automatically fortified behind castle walls, so you may not use ranged attacks during the first phase of combat. If the enemy token also has a fortified icon, then it's double fortified and may not be attacked at all during the first combat phase. If your move to assault the keep led to a rampaging enemy nearby to be provoked, it joins the battle, but you don't need to defeat it to conquer the keep, and it does not benefit from the keep's fortification. By owning a keep, you may interact with it there to recruit units that share the keep icon on them. Also, being on or adjacent to a keep you own at the end of your turn will increase your hand limit. Increase it by the number of keeps you control anywhere on the map. Players may assault other players' owned keeps. If the player is there, treat it as PvP. If the owner is not there, draw a gray token to fight like a normal keep assault. By defeating it, that player gains half the fame rounded up and takes over the keep. Replace the shield tokens. If the player failed at attacking the garrison, discard the token. A new one will be drawn if assaulted again. Each assault attempt loses the player 1 reputation. A mage tower works very similarly to a keep, but you draw a purple mage tower token instead of a gray keep token. It stays face down at night unless a player assaults it. In the day, it will flip face up whenever a player is adjacent. Assaulting a mage tower lowers the player's reputation by 1. In your first game, you may not have revealed the spell offer yet. The first time you reveal a mage tower on the map, draw the top 3 spell cards off the top of the deck to make a column. Mage towers can be assaulted like keeps. When conquered, place your shield token on it to show you broke their garrison. At the end of your turn, you may take one spell card from the spell offer. Place the spell card on the top of your deck. Slide the rest of the spells down and draw a new one to the top position to refresh the offer. Once it's conquered, any player may interact with it as an action. You may recruit units that have the Mage Tower icon on them. Add or subtract your reputation when totaling your influence to spend. You may also buy spells while interacting at the Mage Tower. Pay 7 influence and 1 mana matching the color of the spell you want to take. Refresh the offer like normal. Most of the violet enemies are mages and golems who use fire and ice elements. The important thing to remember is to try to attack and block it with the opposite element. Otherwise, your block or attack is halved. Enemies with an element resistance are not affected by special effects of that color. Spells are powerful action cards you can play on your turn with the use of mana. The basic effect requires mana. The stronger effect can only be used during night because it also requires black mana to be used with the other color. Regardless, spell cards can always be played sideways for +1 move, influence, attack, or block. This is the image of a monastery. Monasteries are a place of healing and knowledge. When it comes out on a map tile, draw 1 advanced action card from the deck and add it to the unit offer below the day-night board, since the monks want to share their knowledge with the world. While on a monastery space, a hero may interact with it as their action. They may recruit units from the unit offer matching the monastery icon on their card. Heroes may also spend influence at a 2-to-1 ratio to gain healing points here. The monks inside have a great desire to help, so they require less influence than villages to provide healing. Anyone at a monastery may learn from them as long as they're persuasive enough. Pay 6 influence to get an advanced action from the unit offer. Add it to the top of your deed deck. When preparing a new round, discard any advanced action cards still in the unit offer, and add new ones from the top of the deck. Add 1 per standing monastery. Players may choose to burn down the monastery as their one action. The locals highly disapprove of this act, so lose 3 reputation and draw a violet token to fight. Your units feel this is wrong, so they will not help you fight. You cannot use their abilities, and you cannot assign damage to them. Should you fail the combat with the mage, discard its token. The next time someone attempts to burn it, draw a new one. By winning the combat, gain an artifact at the end of the turn. To show you burned it, place 1 of your shield tokens on it. The monastery is now a pile of ashes. It cannot be interacted with any longer, nor will it supply the unit offer with an advanced action at the beginning of the round. Treat it like an empty space now. Artifact cards have an upper basic effect to them when played. You may choose to use the stronger lower half ability, but you must destroy it after it's used. These may be played sideways for +1 move, influence, attack, or block. Some artifacts are banners, which may be assigned to a unit. This unit gains the upper benefit. Some can only be used once in a round, so flip them face down when used. At the start of a new round, flip them back up. You may also choose to shuffle it back in your deed deck. If you lose your unit, put the artifact in your discard pile. Each unit can only hold 1 banner at a time. The artifact's ultimate lower ability can't be used while it's attached to a unit. Now let's talk about adventure sites, which share common traits. It is a safe space. You may enter the site as an action, which usually involves combat, and entering adventure sites will not affect your reputation. And you cannot enter a site and fight a rampaging enemy at the same time. This image represents a monster den site. Moving onto it doesn't automatically trigger anything as it's considered an adventure site. As an action, you may enter the den to draw a brown token to fight. For winning, place your shield token on it. As a reward, gain 2 random crystal mana tokens for your inventory at the end of the turn. By failing the combat, leave the enemy token face up there. Heroes moving onto it don't have to fight. Only by choosing to engage the site will a hero fight what's there. The dungeon site has this artwork on the map. Being an adventure site, heroes must choose to enter the dungeon to draw a brown enemy token to fight. Your units wait outside and won't help you with the fight. The dungeon is underground, so always operates using the night rules even during the day. You may not use gold mana, but you can use black mana to power the stronger effect of a spell. By defeating the dungeon, place your shield token on it. At the end of the turn, claim your reward. You get to roll a mana die. If a black or gold mana is rolled, you gain 1 spell from the offer. Rolling any other color gives you an artifact. If you fail the combat, discard the token. Dungeons can be attempted again later, drawing a new brown token. Conquered dungeons may be explored again the same way. fight. The only difference is winning doesn't let you place a shield token, since there's one already there. You may only earn the fame from the enemy token, not the random reward. The ancient ruins on map spaces look like this, and is another adventure site. If it's revealed during the day, draw a face-up yellow ruins token to go there. If revealed at night, place it face down. The face down ruins will flip over at the start of a day round, or if a player moves onto it. There are 2 types of ruin tokens. An ancient altar to a forgotten god will show 3 mana of a certain color. Activate the altar by paying the 3 shown mana, then gain the fame shown and discard the ruins token. Mark it with your shield token on the space. Ruins may also have enemies with treasures on them. Draw the enemy tokens depicted and fight them together. If you don't defeat both enemies, they stay there and nothing else happens. If one was defeated, it is not replaced. Whoever ends up defeating the final enemy will earn the depicted reward at the bottom in addition to fame. The winner places a shield token on the space and discards the ruins token. A tomb is an adventure site often found on core map tiles. It works just like a dungeon with some small changes. With an action, you may enter the tomb and draw a red Draconum token to fight. Your units may not be used. Night rules will apply while fighting in the tomb. For defeating it, you'll mark the tomb with one of your shield tokens. In addition to gaining fame on the token, gain a spell and artifact as your reward at the end of the turn. Conquered tombs may be entered over and over, but the shield token is not replaced, nor the rewards gained again. You'll just get to fight a Draconum and earn its fame. If failing combat, discard the enemy token. There are 2 kinds of artwork representing spawning grounds. These are adventure sites as well that allow heroes to enter them as their turn action. Draw 2 brown enemy tokens to fight. If only one enemy is defeated, keep the undefeated enemy face up and replace the defeated enemy with a new brown token face down. It will be revealed the next time someone enters the spawning ground. Whenever a hero enters it again, flip over the token and fight both enemies there. After defeating them both, place your shield token on the space to show you conquered it. As a reward, gain 3 random mana crystals and an artifact card at the end of the turn. Roll the mana die 3 times to gain the shown mana crystals to your inventory. Rolling a black will give 1 fame instead. Rolling a gold lets you choose the color crystal. There are other locations and map features added from the expansions, but I won't get into those in this video. The end of the first reconnaissance scenario will trigger when the core tile showing the city is revealed. Every player gets 1 more turn and then the game is over. Player versus player is not allowed once the city is revealed. Each player may now earn fame points for a variety of achievements. Keep track of their scores using their shield token on the fame track. No more level up bonuses will be earned. Reference the achievement scoring card included in the game to follow along with each scoring category. Each player can simultaneously go through their cards and sort them by types. Sort out cards from your hand, discard pile, and deed deck. Keep any wound cards with any wounded units, and hero wounds in a separate pile. First, the greatest knowledge category is scored. Every player will gain 2 fame for each spell card, and 1 fame for each advanced action card collected. The player who gained the most fame from these will get a 3 fame bonus. Any tied players for the most will get 1 fame. Next, score the greatest loot category. Every player will gain 2 fame for each artifact card, and 1 fame for every pair of collected mana crystals. The player who gained the most fame from these will get a 3 fame bonus. Any tied players for the most will get 1 fame. Each of these categories awards titles like this. Then the greatest leader category is scored. Players score fame equal to the total of all their units' levels. Wounded units only give half their level in fame rounded down. The player who gained the most fame from their units will get a 3 fame bonus, 1 if tied. Next, the greatest conqueror category is scored. Look at the shield tokens on the map. Each player gains 2 fame per shield on keeps, mage towers, and monasteries. The player who gained the most fame from these will get a 3 fame bonus, 1 if tied. The greatest adventurer is scored the same way, except looking at shield tokens on adventure sites. Look at monster dens, dungeons, tombs, ancient ruins, and spawning grounds. Each shield on these gives the player 2 fame. Whoever gained the most fame from this category is awarded 3 extra fame, 1 for tied players. Lastly, there are negative fame points from wound cards gained in their deck. Count up the wound cards your hero earned, not your units. Each wound loses the player 2 fame. Whoever lost the most fame this way took the greatest beating and loses an additional 3 fame. If tied, they'll each lose 1 fame. Whoever has the most fame is the winner. The first big change for your second game Onward is you won't gain fame for exploring new map tiles. During game setup, reveal the starting advanced action card offer and spell card offer. You'll get to add in the gold elite units to the game as well, so shuffle that deck at the beginning too. They will come in as soon as a brown core tile has been added to the map. Then, when setting up a round, alternate between adding an elite unit and a regular unit. Start with an elite unit. These may be recruited in all the usual ways based on the location icons shown on their cards. Their costs are still shown in the corner and must be paid with influence points. The rule that at least one of the initial units in the unit offer that must show a village icon does not apply in scenarios other than the first reconnaissance. When choosing a scenario to play, the rules for it will describe the map type to use. It specifies the number of countryside tiles, city tiles, and non-city core tiles to use. It's important to remember these maps start with map tiles already, which do count towards these totals. You'll be exploring out one of several map types. The wedge map uses the same starting tile A side as the first game. This wedge map is built the same way as the starting game, with the core brown tiles not being allowed to be added to the coastline. The fully open map style uses the B side of the starting tile and opens up a wide angle for the map tiles. It begins with 3 starting map tiles to set up. The width of the map can extend up to 5 map tiles. At that point, the map can go parallel indefinitely within a 5-tile width. Lastly, you can apply the open map concept, but limit the width to 3 or 4 columns only. Check which is specified on the scenario and follow that. Regardless of which map shape you use, while placing the countryside map tiles, they must be adjacent to at least 2 other tiles, or adjacent to a tile that borders at least 2 other tiles. The core brown tiles must be placed adjacent to at least 2 tiles. Lastly, if players explore but there are no more map tiles left in the setup stack, they may take a random countryside tile from the box. Then, if all countryside tiles are used, they can take a random non-city core tile from the box. When placing tiles from the box like this, they must be adjacent to 3 other tiles. The other scenarios are found near the back of the rulebook. They're generally categorized into solo, competitive, and cooperative scenarios. There's also the full conquest and full cooperation scenarios that lets you experience the full epic scale of Mage Knight. Each scenario comes with its own number of rounds, map shape, and map stack setup. There are special rules for each, including different game end triggers. The scoring methods are usually more detailed and add to or replace the normal categories of scoring fame. Everything in Mage Knight can also be readily soloed. I'll explain more on that in a second. There are new variant rules that can be added into the game to give even more replayability. Some 4-player scenarios are team games, making it into a 2v2 game. I'll leave you to discover all the extra variant rules. Of course, if you have the Ultimate Edition or bought some of the expansions, you'll have lots of new content to add into your game. In your first game, simply revealing a map tile with a city will trigger the end of the game. However, in future games, there are extra steps to take when revealing a city. Take the corresponding city card and place it close to the map. Check the scenario to see what level the city should be. Take the city miniature and rotate the base to show the city level. Place the city figure on the city space. For each colored circle shown, draw an enemy token that matches and put them face down on the city card. Each city will give bonuses to the enemy defenders during an assault, as shown on its card. The white city gives all defenders +1 armor. The blue city gives defenders with an ice or fire attack +2, and +1 attack if they have cold fire attack. The red city gives all defenders with a physical attack the brutal ability. The green city gives all defenders with a physical attack the poisonous ability. Enter an adjacent city by spending 2 movement points, which triggers an assault. Lose 1 reputation and begin combat with all enemies at the city. Just like when assaulting keeps or mage towers, you can challenge or provoke adjacent rampaging enemies who will join the fight. They don't need to be defeated to conquer the city, and they do not benefit from the city's fortifications. Defeating them does not provide a shield. For each enemy you defeat during an assault on a city, place one of your shield tokens on its card. You should put the shields in a row to determine the order that different players have defeated enemies there. Once a hero defeats the final enemy there, the city is conquered and you must determine the city leader. The player with the most shield tokens on the city card becomes the city leader. In the case of a tie, the one with the first shield in the row of placed shields becomes the leader. The leader gains the city card and all the shield tokens with it. When any player visits that city from then on, place their miniature on the city card which is in front of the leader player. At the end of your turn, if you're on or adjacent to a conquered city with one of your shield tokens on it, you may increase your hand limit by 1. If you're the leader, you may increase your hand limit by 2. This bonus does not stack with the hand limit bonus you get from keeps. Heroes may enter a conquered city and interact with it. You will gain 1 influence per shield token you have on the city card. It's possible to have enough influence from shield tokens and reputation that you may not need to play cards or units for more influence. Each of the colored cities has their own interaction option on what you may spend influence on. The white city lets you recruit any unit from the offer, as it counts as having all the location icons. You may also spend 2 influence to add 1 gold elite unit to the unit offer. The blue city lets you spend 7 influence and 1 mana to take a spell from the spell offer. The mana color spent must match the mana type shown on the spell card. It works just like a mage tower. The red city lets you spend 12 influence to buy an artifact card. The artifact cards are always drawn and resolved at the end of the turn. The green city lets you spend 6 influence to gain an advanced action card and add it to the top of your deck. You may choose one from the 3 in the offer or a random one from the top of the advanced action deck. When playing a cooperative scenario, players may use the cooperative city assault rules. If players agree, you can add this into competitive games too. As long as the end of the round hasn't been announced, any player can initiate a cooperative city assault. Their hero must be adjacent to a city without other players on their space. As their one action, the hero may start the assault with the other players in agreement. 1 or more heroes also need to be adjacent to the city and not have their round token flipped over yet this round. The heroes must also have at least 1 non-wound card in their hand to participate. The initiating player may invite 1 or more suitable players of their choosing to help in the assault. The initiating player gets to choose how to distribute the enemies. Each involved player must have at least 1 enemy to fight. You should keep making suggestions on how to divide up the number of enemies until there's a consensus. Players may only decide on the number of enemies each player faces, not the type. Players who agree to participate should flip their round order token face down, marking that they must skip their next turn. Then randomly shuffle up and distribute the enemy tokens in the numbers agreed on. Starting with the initiating player and following the round order, players take turns doing combat. Each hero goes through each combat phase before the next player goes. Each player may use 1 mana die from the source in their combat, but do not return it until the entire city assault is over. On their turn, they must move on to the city space, which may provoke nearby rampaging enemies. These are added to their own set of enemies to fight, or they may choose to add adjacent rampaging enemies to the fight. Since each player is performing an assault, they first lose 1 reputation. For each enemy from the city they defeat, they'll place 1 of their shield tokens on the city card like normal. Effects used that affect all enemies only apply to the ones assigned to the player to fight. If all the defending enemy tokens are defeated, the city is conquered. Any added rampaging enemies don't need to be defeated for this. If the city is not conquered, all players will withdraw to the space they came from. Then continue to take turns resolving the end of their turn process. Healing and special effects cards can be played after the assault. You may also choose to add player versus player combat into your competitive multiplayer games. Players fighting other players' heroes is an optional rule addition for your first game and competitive scenarios. Any hero may start combat by moving into a space with another hero. They're known as the aggressor. They must not have their round order markers already flipped this round through previous PvP or participating in a cooperative city assault. Other restrictions are that you may not start combat with them in a city or at the starting magic portal space. In the final turns after the end of the round has been announced, combat between players is also not allowed. The attacked player is known as the defender and may choose to fully attend or not. The defender may use any effects allowed before their turn or in turns of other players. If they attend fully, they will take their full turn in advance and use any benefits that provides. To remember to skip their next turn, the defender should flip over their round order marker. If fully attending the combat, the defender may gain start of turn benefits like gaining a mana token from a magical glade. They may also take and use a mana die from the day-night board. Their skills are available and may play special and healing cards after the combat's over. Then they'll resolve the usual end of turn steps. Since combat is the defender's only action their turn too, they may not move or do any other action. When the defender chooses to only partially attend the combat, they won't take their turn early or flip their round marker over. They may not gain a mana die, use skills, or follow the end of turn steps. The PvP combat has two phases: ranged and siege attacks, and melee attacks. When a player is forced to retreat, or when neither player wants to attack anymore, the combat ends. If neither want to attack, the aggressor will retreat back. Effects that target enemies can only target a player's unwounded units and not a player's hero directly. Cards that say to destroy an enemy will only wound the unit. In the first phase, players take turns making ranged and siege attacks at each other, starting with the defender. They may choose to attack or pass on their turn. They may play combinations of ranged or siege attacks like normal, without playing sideways cards. If the defender is being attacked while on a fortified site, the aggressor may only use siege attacks. The blocking player gets to respond with as many blocks as they can, like normal, against an enemy's attack. Efficient and inefficient blocking applies. If the attack consists of attack effects of multiple elements, the block effect is efficient if it is efficient against at least one element represented in the attacks. In PvP, it's not necessary to block the entire attack. The total attack value is reduced by 1 for every 2 points of blocking played. Any remaining unblocked damage will become damage that must be assigned to units or the hero. However, the attacker gets to decide how to assign the damage among the blocker's units and hero. Instead of applying wounds like a normal combat, the attacker must be able to do as much damage as the armor value to give a wound. They can choose the hero or a unit, but will only do a wound if the assigned damage meets their armor value. If the unit is resistant to any element used in the attack, its armor is doubled, so the attacker has to assign twice as much damage to wound the unit. If targeting the hero, the attacker may choose to keep assigning damage, and each time they reach the hero's armor level, give them another wound card. They leave extra damage unassigned if it wouldn't be able to do a wound. When the defender is done, the other player gets the chance to be the attacker in this phase. They may keep taking turns until they pass in succession, then proceed to the melee attacks phase. When moving into the melee phase, the aggressor gets the first opportunity to attack. Fortifications are ignored in this phase, so any combination of attacks can be used, including using sideways cards. When blocking attacks in this phase, the blocking points reduce the attack value 1-to-1. Damage can be used to wound the hero or their units just like the first phase. In addition though, the attacker may spend 5 damage points to steal 1 artifact from the blocker and put it in their own discard pile. Artifacts can be stolen like this from their discard pile, play area, or ones assigned to a unit. The attacker may also convert damage points into movement points, which can force the blocker to retreat. They must spend the converted move points to move the hero to an adjacent safe space, paying the normal terrain costs. Players keep alternating in the melee attack phase until someone is forced to retreat or both players pass, making the aggressor retreat. The player who forced the other player to retreat is considered the winner of the combat and may gain fame points. If the winning player is a lower level of fame than the one forced to retreat, they gain 1 fame plus 2 fame for each level they are lower. If at the same level but a lower fame amount, they'll gain 1 fame point. If they are at the same or higher fame points, they earn nothing. If the combat ended because both players passed, the combat is a draw and no one gains anything. Many fans of Mage Knight prefer to play it alone. It has a very robust solo mode that is just as fun to play as with other people. In fact, almost every scenario can be adjusted to the solo rules to be played entirely solo. When playing solo, you'll use a dummy player to act as an extra time constraint. The dummy player should also be used in your cooperative games. When setting up the game, choose your hero and randomly pick another hero for the dummy player. Remove the competitive interactive skill from each hero, as it won't be used. Take out only the dummy player's hero card, round order token, skill tokens, and starting 16 card deed deck. At the bottom of their hero card, look at the 3 colored dots. Place 3 colored crystals in their inventory at the start, matching these colors. The dummy player may hold any number of crystals, contrary to human players. Shuffle their deck and stack of skill tokens. When drawing out unit cards and collecting the needed mana dice, don't count the dummy player as a player. So you'll reveal 3 unit cards and roll only 3 mana dice throughout the game. You always pick your tactic card first, then shuffle the current round's tactics and draw 1 for the dummy player. The dummy player does not get any benefits from it, only use the number drawn to determine turn order. At the end of the round, both tactics cards are permanently discarded. On the dummy player's turn, draw 3 cards from the deck. Look at the mana color of the 3rd card drawn. If the dummy player has crystals that match the color, draw extra cards from their deck equal to the number of matching color crystals. If the dummy player doesn't have any matching crystals, then their turn is over. If the dummy player can't draw all the cards they're supposed to, draw as many as possible. If their deck is empty at the start of their turn, they announce the end of the round, giving you 1 more turn. While preparing a new round, you normally remove the lowest positioned advanced action card and put it under its deck. In this case, add it to the dummy player's deck instead. The spell card is still put under the bottom of its deck, but check its mana color. Give a mana crystal of its color to the dummy player, placed in their inventory. Whenever you level up and gain a new skill, also draw the top skill token from the dummy player and put it in the common skill offer. It'll be available to you to choose the next time you gain a skill token. Whenever you decide to take the dummy's common skill token, you're forced to choose the advanced action card in the lowest position. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. Check the video description for links to Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades, Mr. Meeple t-shirts for cool board gaming shirts, and SleeveKings.com for a 10% off coupon on card sleeves. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.